What was the Manila Galleon Trade and why was it important for its time? What was the economic impact to the Philippines and what lessons can be learned from it? How did it impact the Chinese Yuan, the Japanese Yen, and the Korean Won? Please watch up to the end to hear how all of this get tied up. We promise it will be very interesting. The Manila Galleon Trade was a historic maritime commerce route that operated between 1565 and 1815, linking the Spanish overseas territory of the Philippines with New Spain, present-day Mexico, across the Pacific Ocean. Every year, massive Spanish galleons carried silver from the Americas to Manila, where it was exchanged for high-value Asian goods such as silk, porcelain, spices, and ivory. This route effectively bridged east and west, making it one of the first major conduits of globalization. Operated under the Spanish Empire, the galleon trade was tightly controlled and immensely profitable. It not only facilitated economic exchange but also cultural and religious diffusion between continents. The voyage was perilous, lasting several months, including perils from English and Dutch privateers, basically pirates, but operating for their own monarchs and trying to capture the cargo brought by the galleons. But highly rewarding for those involved, with profits often reaching several 100%. As a transoceanic trade system that predated industrial globalization by centuries, the Manila Galleon Trade stands as a remarkable early model of global commerce. The Manila Galleon Trade route connected Asia, the Americas, and Europe, becoming one of the earliest and most sustained examples of global trade. But what were the economics of the galleon trade, and what are some key takeaways relevant for a modern audience? The core of the Manila Galleon Trade was silver, primarily from mines in the Americas. China's shift to a silver-based monetary system created insatiable demand. This demand led to an eastward flow of said to be over 150,000 tons of silver between 1500 and 1800, making it one of the earliest examples of sustained global commodity exchange. Arbitrage and price convergence. Big differences in how silver and gold were valued in different parts of the world created chances for traders to make a lot of money. In China, silver was worth a lot more compared to gold than it was in Europe, so traders could take silver from Europe, where it was cheaper, and bring it to China, where they could trade it for more value. This movement of silver helped even out silver prices around the world over time. Spain, silver, and the Dutch disease. Before going any further, we need to discuss the backdrop for the galleon trade and explain the mercantilist economics at the time, especially the condition of Spain and the relative neglect of its large overseas territories can be attributed to an early version of the Dutch disease. What is a Dutch disease? Well, the Dutch disease is a problem that can happen in a country's economy when one sector suddenly grows a lot. While that might sound like a good thing, it can actually hurt other parts of the economy. The term was first coined in 1977 by The Economist to describe the economic challenges faced by the Netherlands after discovering large natural gas reserves in 1959. And how does it work? Well, currency gets too strong. When a country starts selling a lot of valuable resources to other countries, it gets a lot of foreign money in return. This makes the local currency stronger. A stronger currency makes it harder for other local industries like manufacturing or farming to sell their products overseas because their goods become more expensive. It also makes imported goods very much cheaper, so people start buying more from abroad instead of supporting local businesses. Then the resources shift to the booming sector and workers and money start flowing into the booming resource sector because it's more profitable. Meanwhile, other industries like factories or farms get ignored and start to shrink, a process called deindustrialization. However, we need to pause here because we need some context for this, as the whole of Europe then, and not just Spain, was working under the ideas of mercantilism. So we need to discuss mercantilism as well. What is mercantilism? Well, it refers to an economic system that was dominant in Europe from the 16th to 18th centuries. It's based on the belief that the nation's wealth and power are best achieved by maximizing exports and minimizing imports to accumulate precious metals like gold and silver. Mercantilist policies often involved heavy government regulations, high tariffs, colonial expansion, and trade protectionism to ensure a favorable balance of trade, meaning favorable exports minus imports. Under mercantilism, wealth was measured in gold and silver. Spain struck it rich, literally, by discovering massive silver mines in the Americas. This aligned perfectly with the mercantilist goal of amassing precious metals to increase national power. Also, Spain tightly controlled trade between its overseas territories and the motherland through systems like the Casa de Contratación, making sure silver and goods flowed through Spanish ports and were taxed along the way. However, Spain engaged in significant importing during the height of its empire, which ran counter to the principles of mercantilism, but it aligns with observations found with modern Dutch disease. Mercantilist theory emphasized minimizing imports and maximizing exports to maintain a favorable balance of trade and accumulate wealth in the form of precious metals. However, Spain's economic behavior deviated from this ideal in several key ways. Consequences: Spain's heavy reliance on imports and failure to develop a robust domestic economy within its empire contributed to long-term economic decline and can be seen as symptomatic of the Dutch disease. By prioritizing the extraction of silver over industrial or agricultural development, Spain failed to achieve the self-sufficiency central to mercantilist theory. This divergence from mercantilism ultimately weakened its economic and political power in Europe and led to neglect in its overseas empire. And this is where the galleon trade comes in. The key point is that China was valuing silver more than it was valued in Europe relative to gold, and Spain had a lot of silver. You see, China embraced Mexican silver as a trusted currency from the late 16th century, with its peak usage occurring during the 18th and 19th century due to its reliability and integration into both domestic and international trade networks. China's large and vibrant economy required substantial amounts of silver for trade and monetization. Silver supported China's export sector and served as a currency for both domestic transactions and international trade. So the high valuation of silver in China fueled the flow of American silver across the Pacific via the Manila Galleons. In some years, more silver was supposedly shipped to China than to Spain itself. This trade imbalance helped integrate global economies, however, with European merchants profiting from arbitrage, while Chinese demand drove the circulation of silver worldwide. What was the impact of the galleon trade to the Philippine economy? Well, let's start with the positive impact. Integration into global trade. Manila became a major global port, facilitating trade between Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The Philippines served as a hub for goods like Chinese silk, porcelain, and spices from Southeast Asia, exchanged for silver from Mexico, etc. The trade introduced new products such as maize, tomatoes, chocolate, and tobacco, which became important cash crops. Emergence of a merchant class. The influx of traders and artisans during the galleon trade contributed to the development of a local merchant class in the Philippines. Market economy development. Cash transactions were introduced, marking a shift from primitive agricultural production to a crude capitalist mode of production. Cultural exchange. The Philippines became a crossroads of cultures. Goods and ideas came not just from Spain and Mexico, but also from China, India, and other parts of Asia. Filipinos were exposed to foreign art, fashion, food, and even technology that came on the ships. This helped shape the diverse Filipino identity we see today, blending Asian, European, and Latin American elements. How about the negative impact? While the galleon trade connected the Philippines to global commerce and brought some economic benefits, its monopolistic structure and focus on silver as a measure of wealth largely stifled long-term economic growth and self-sufficiency. The end of the galleon trade. Why did the galleon trade become economically unfeasible? The decline and eventual end of the galleon trade in 1815 were driven by several interrelated economic, political, and technological shifts. One major factor was the rise of British industrial power. As British manufacturing gained dominance, goods like textiles, porcelain, and other Asian-inspired products could be produced more cheaply in Europe. This undercut the demand for Asian imports that had once justified the risk and the cost of trans-Pacific shipping. Another key factor was the falling global value of silver. The once lucrative arbitrage between American silver and Asian markets narrowed as silver became more widely available, especially in China. The growing influence of Britain and the weakening of Spanish maritime dominance also diminished the strategic value of the galleon route. Finally, the political upheaval of Latin American independence movements, especially Mexico's separation from Spain in 1821, effectively severed the logistical and administrative backbone that had supported the trade. The names of the Chinese yuan, Korean won, and Japanese yen are cognates, and they are derived from the same root word for round, referencing the shape of the Spanish silver dollar or the real de ocho. This coin, widely circulated during the Manila Galleon Trade, was highly valued in East Asia and influenced the naming of these currencies. These currencies highlight the enduring legacy of the Spanish silver dollar in shaping global monetary systems and linguistic connections across Asia. Conclusion: the Manila Galleon was more than just a trade route. It was an early model of global integration, revealing how commodities like silver could shape economies, how trade networks required collaboration across cultures, and how unequal gains from globalization may be key features rather than a modern anomaly. Its lessons, economic, political, and social, continue to resonate in today's interconnected world, as perhaps can be seen in the current turmoil over the tariff wars and the dominance of China in manufacturing. Is China going through a Dutch disease with its reliance on exporting to the US as its main engine of growth? Well, time will tell, but clearly, the lessons of the Manila Galleon Trade remain relevant as ever. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel to continue supporting us. That's all that we have for now. Viva Filipinas y vivan los Filipinos!